Yeah, thanks. And great that you're all here and want to learn more a bit about how you can manage multiple clusters and backups together with Rancher and K10. So that's probably not news for you. Kubernetes is a great platform and it unifies not like the differences between different environments, devs, data center, IoT, cloud, edge use cases under a single API that works the same regardless where we're running Kubernetes. And that's one of the great things about it. And if you have one or two Kubernetes clusters and you want to manage them, that's quite easy. You go to your cloud provider, you set up a managed Kubernetes cluster. If you are on premise, you may use some kind of Kubernetes distribution, something like K3s, for example, micro K10 or others. And then you set it up, you deploy your applications, all fine. It becomes a bit more challenging if the amount of Kubernetes clusters that you're running increases and increases and increases. And when we look at large organizations, oftentimes you're not only running one or two clusters, you may have dev, staging, production, then you have maybe different development clusters for different development teams. You may have maybe one or two more stages in your pipeline. You may have multiple production clusters because of running some stuff in the cloud, some on-premise. Maybe you have a hybrid cloud or multi-cloud strategy. And then if you think about more interesting scenarios in terms of amount of clusters, like edge and IoT scenarios, where you have Kubernetes clusters on industry PCs in factories, or in supermarket stores in the small racks they have there, or in cars, on trains and planes, everywhere where you want to run software. Kubernetes can nowadays be the standardization to run it in the same way regardless where it's running. And then you have not only one or two clusters, but hundreds or thousands or tens of thousands of them, and you still need to make sense of it. You still need to manage these clusters. You need to keep them up to date. You have to configure policies, monitoring, security, and so on. And you also have to configure the workloads and backups for these workloads in all these clusters. And that's where Rancher together with Kasten K10 can come in and help you. With Rancher, you get a single pane of glass that allows you to manage everything from 1 to thousands of Kubernetes clusters, regardless where they are. They can be on your developer laptop, they can be in the data center somewhere on premise, even completely air-gapped. They can be in the cloud and also in any kind of IoT and HD environment. And also regardless what Kubernetes distribution you're running. If it's managed or self-run or vanilla Kubernetes, it can all be imported in a single pane of glass so that you have one visibility into your whole environment. You see all your Kubernetes clusters, which version they're running on, and then you have a central plane to configure authentication, authorization, the applications inside, policies, and so on. I'm going to come to backup in a minute. Just to give you some ideas how people are using that, I'm not going to read all of that out. I just brought with me some success stories. For example, Home Depot is running this in all of their shops in the United States. So this is like a big convenience or hardware store, and they have small racks of servers in every store that do their inventory systems, and these are all running Kubernetes and managed centrally through Rancher. We have a big French train company who is running Kubernetes on trains. Not for anything that is critical for driving the train, there's regulation there, but for everything that is board information systems. Like the screens you see, for example, in the train that tell you what the next station is, this is all managed by Kubernetes. Big German car manufacturer, BMW, is running this in their factories, in small data centers, and we even have a use case where Kubernetes is running on satellites in space and also managed through a central Rancher environment. And in all of these, you want to not only manage the Kubernetes clusters, but also backups. And the nice thing about Rancher is it's an open ecosystem, and we have tons of partners here that we work together with to enrich the platform, enrich what you can do and how you can work together. And one of them is also Veeam with Kasten K10. Oh, down here. And let me show you how this can work together. So, what I've prepared here, so first of all, let's go back to the homepage. This is a Rancher management server, and I have a couple Kubernetes clusters prepared. If I want to add new clusters, I can import existing ones. I can create new clusters directly from the UI. If I want to, with connections to any kind of cloud provider, or also by just installing Kubernetes on some nodes that already exist, and even I can manage the complete operating system from Rancher as well. I prepared already one cluster here, which is this one. And now everything that happens now is completely independent where the cluster is running. It's always looking the same. In every cluster, I have the possibility to log into it. I can see all my workloads that I'm deploying inside of my cluster. For example, I have here in my application namespace an Nginx running. I can see what the logs are that are running through here. Nothing. Okay, boring. Okay, so a couple logs were there like an hour ago when I set this up. I can, of course, also quickly scale this up and down if I wanted to, edit everything, create new deployments, new ingresses, new storages, all through intuitive forms instead of having to go into YAML all the time. So this is just basic Rancher. Where it gets then really powerful is with all the partner integrations that we have in the application marketplace. And one of them here is K10. So instead of, to make it as easy as possible, you can just go to the application marketplace, install it, give it a couple of configuration options, and then say save, and you have K10 installed in the cluster. I already prepared that here. So I have a link here directly to the K10 UI, or the Kasten UI. And you can see I even have a backup policy already present here. And this backup policy is for the small Nginx you saw earlier. So I can quickly run this directly from here. And it, basic Kasten functionality, it will directly back this up. Okay. So we should see a backup happening shortly. By the way, storage-wise, I'm using here in my cluster Longhorn as a storage, which is a CNCF project, which is software-defined distributed network storage, which in this case is a cluster at DigitalOcean, so it doesn't make so much sense to run Longhorn on a DigitalOcean cluster. But imagine you have a cluster on bare metal on small industry PCs in a factory, then Longhorn could be a very interesting solution to have also software-defined storage on bare metal. And if we have a look at our Nginx volume, we should see, here it is. Here's the backup when I tried it, and the next backup is probably going to appear soon, so that the K10 backups directly also hook into Longhorn backup and snapshot solution. Okay, so that is great. For one single cluster, I can drive this through the UI. I can easily say, hey, I want to deploy Kasten. I have this all in the UI. And I can very easily set this all up. But what about multi-cluster management? Because I said earlier, hey, if you not only have one cluster, but thousands of clusters, and you need backups on thousands of clusters. Going in the Rancher UI and clicking then 10,000 times or 1,000 times somewhere to install it would be kind of cumbersome. That's why Rancher also has a built-in continuous delivery system called Fleet. The way that it works, it's GitOps-based. So you have Git repositories that can contain all your application manifests, but also the installation of K10 itself, also the backup policies, everything you need. And they can then register these Git repositories on Rancher. And then you can decide to which cluster or which group of clusters you want to deploy the content of this Git repository. So this can be one cluster, but also thousands of clusters or a group of clusters. And you can even do modifications saying, okay, deploy the same application Helm chart everywhere, but maybe have the URL or IP addresses also then slightly different per environment without repeating yourself over and over and over again. And this is a very nice way to automate that. So I actually use this to deploy everything in this cluster. So if we go back here to Rancher's continuous delivery solution, you can see I have a cluster in here. It says updating because I scaled it up and it detected that it is not one replica but 2 replicas now from the Nginx. So I have a couple. That's also why it's here not ready and modified. So bear with me. So this is backed by a Git repository here, and if we have a look, this Git repository, let's make this a bit bigger. It installs Longhorn. So here it just says from the Longhorn repository, install please Longhorn in the cluster in a specific version, and it says, hey, yeah, disable pod security policies because I don't need them for my demo. Then based on that, I also install Kasten K10 from the Rancher partner charts repository in a specific version, and I just kept it to the default values. But of course, you can configure all the Helm values in here as well if you want to. And I also say, hey, please only install K10 when Longhorn is already installed because I need persistent storage. And then for Longhorn, I also need like a CSI snapshot class so that K10 can do Longhorn snapshots. I need to create that. And the last thing is that I actually deploy my Nginx here. Here you can see standard Nginx container mounting a persistent volume claim. The persistent volume claim is using Longhorn as the data storage. And then the interesting stuff is here that I also can create a backup policy saying, hey, please, K10, back me up. Everything that is in my application namespace. And of course, the namespace itself that has this annotation here that I'm referencing is also directly in here. So all GitOps driven. I didn't need to click anything in the UI. The only thing I needed to do is create the cluster, register it directly at Fleet, and it deploys and updates everything and rolls it out to one cluster in this case, but also to thousands of clusters. And just to show you how it's configured in here. So here in this Git repository, I'm saying this is my repository. I want to watch the main branch. I can set up authentication and authorization, TLS settings. I can watch the whole repository or just a certain subdirectory because I have multiple stuff in that repository. I'm just watching that, the directory you just saw. And in the next step, I decide then, hey, do I want to deploy this to a single cluster, all clusters that I have in Rancher, or if I had groups of clusters, I can also then match a group of clusters in here. So, and anytime I change something, it will also update it directly within Rancher. So let's try to do this. Let's maybe edit this here, and let's edit, I don't know, maybe another label. Let's commit this. And let's maybe also go back here and scale this down again, because the pod will, in this case, unfortunately never come up, because I'm using a read-write-once volume. That was a bit stupid to scale this up. Okay. And yeah, we should see soon that a new pod with new configuration will come up. So in a standard GitOps way, if I didn't destroy anything in my live demo. While this is running, we can go back there soon. Where can you find out more about this? We have the SUSE Rancher community at community.suse.com, where you can find a lot more information. We also have a booth over there at the beginning where I can show you the K10 integration in more detail, or we can talk about anything other SUSE and Rancher related, like monitoring, operating system management, continuous delivery, everything that we're doing there. I think we also have a joint solution blog post there. Sorry for not opening this up before. But if you just search for SUSE and K10, that also goes into a lot of details, how you can set this up, how this all works together, and walks you through the installation in detail. And with that,
Thank you. Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Yeah.
aside from Longhorn, do you also support other storage persistent volumes?
Yes, everything that basically has a CSI driver and where you
And
can
it-
get a storage class, yeah.
And you can do like from persistent volume of Longhorn, you can restore it to CSI driver of HP, for example.
That would be now more of a question for the colleagues from Kasten. If you can restore to additional CSI drivers from one to the other. I guess so, right? You can migrate.
And get you a demo specifically of the functionality on one of our demo stations with one of our SEs. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any other questions? Yes. Yes.
Is Kasten like a Helm operator? Can I just install it on any Kubernetes cluster?
Kasten is a Helm chart you can install it on any Kubernetes cluster. For details about like what Kubernetes minimum versions you need, again, the colleagues are way more capable, but up-to-date Kubernetes versions will work.